We continue here on Thursday. Countdown to kickoff here on CBSSports.com. Jason Horowitz, Randy Cross, Boomer Esiason with you here at the University of Tampa, getting ready for Super Bowl XLIII. To hear Boomer's thoughts on Arizona, be sure to check out that segment here on the website. Let's talk a little bit about Pittsburgh. And Boomer, a lot this week about Ben Roethlisberger changing his demeanor from the first time he was in the Super Bowl when it was his second year of the season.
What does that mean?
Well,
he's less scared to death.
Well, whatever,
is that what it is? Okay.
But everybody's talking about him being more in command in the huddle, more of it being his team. Have you seen that all season long?
You know, this could have been one of his worst years ever as a starting quarterback. I mean, when you look at the body of work that he put forth, it wasn't a great year. It didn't, like, statistically, didn't jump off the page to you. But you know, he's played well in the postseason, no question about that. And this is what I love about Ben Roethlisberger. Much like we were talking about Troy Polamalu, he does things that you can't coach. I mean, you can't coach a guy back there knowing that a blitz is coming, and at the last moment get out of the way because he knows he has that intuition, and then throwing the ball, making a big play down the field. The big play to Santonio Holmes that turned into a touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens. Who does that?
Yeah.
Other than if you're 6'5", 250 pounds, and you have the intuition to be able to make that play, it just doesn't happen. So I don't know about all this other mumbo jumbo about him being a new guy and understand. Yeah. And you know, I don't want to make amends for my poor performance in Seattle. Hey, Ben, you won the game. That's all that matters.
He made the mistake of semi-apologizing
and
saying how nervous he was.
Oh.
And never got over being nervous for the entire game. It's like,
you know what I don't get?
Does that make that ring shine less?
I mean, did we ask for confession or something? No, we didn't ask for confession. And no, it's like Tony Romo this week, guys. I need to be more of a leader. All right, you weren't a leader enough.
Yeah.
Now you're telling the world that you need to be more of a leader, like there was something wrong with you prior to the start of the season.
Don't open that can up.
Why do you guys have to feel like you need to confess? I just don't get it. I would never let that cat out of the bag. Never.
Well, it's one of those things also where you can't just say, hey, you're going to be a leader. I'm choosing you to be the leader.
Well, you know what
need to be the leader.
But you know what makes you a leader, and Ben Roethlisberger has what makes you a leader, and that's making the play in the big spot, and the players on your team really respecting you because of that. Again, I go back to the fact that Randy played with Joe Montana. They stepped in the huddle. They knew that 16 was in control. They knew he was going to make all the great throws when it needed to happen most. And unfortunately, those of us who played against him knew that he was going to make the throws too. And, you know, Ben Roethlisberger possesses that part of the game as well.
Don't you think also that the thing about Ben is maybe a year, 2 years ago when he was doing that running around, I'm not positive he was doing it for the same intent. Now he seems to be moving around with the exact intent in mind of getting the ball to his receivers, getting the ball down the field. Is a little bit less frenetic about how he's going about it, but he's just maturing. I mean,
he's maturing. He's still making those plays.
But he's a playmaker.
He is a playmaker.
It's hard to coach.
You can't coach that.
Nah.
I mean, it just it's an intuition. It's a maturity. It's an understanding not to be overwhelmed when it gets nasty around you. And I will say this, that maybe the best defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers all these years has been the fact that they've been able to hold on to the ball by running it and being more physical than the team that they're playing. And a game like this, the best defense is keeping Kurt Warner and his offensive mates on the sideline. Isn't that right?
How about Willie Parker, A, the running game and what they can do with that, and number two, do you really believe in this offensive line? Do you think the last couple of weeks and good performances will mask the fact that those tackles have been a little iffy on the edges?
Well, let's face it. You know, the San Diego Chargers weren't a great defense. You know, and they ran the ball effectively, and they got some big plays in the passing game. That was obviously a big part of their success, and their defense just beating up San Diego early on in that game. Against Baltimore, you know it was going to be a freaking street fight because that's exactly what it was. And Willie Parker, I think, had 20 carries, if I'm not correct. It's close to that number for like 80 yards.
Right.
I mean, that is just like nasty, right? I mean, it's just like, you know, you're going to run through the Baltimore Ravens and they're going to be there, and you're not going to gain more than 3 yards or 4 yards a clip. I mean, that's just nasty
It's an Oklahoma drill.
That's just nasty. So what that shows me, however, is that the Pittsburgh Steelers feel that Willie Parker's finally fully healthy.
Right.
And that's the big key. And for me, they will be able to run the ball against the Cardinals. That does not at all worry me from a standpoint of an offensive player. They'll run it effectively. It's just a question of whether or not they'll fall into the trap that the other teams that the Cardinals have played have fallen into, and that's turning the football over. If they don't turn it over, they don't lose the game.
Well, that's the other thing, too, because talking about Ben Roethlisberger and him making plays in the play to Santonio Holmes, everything you're talking about is outside of the pocket. If you're Arizona, how do you keep him inside the pocket?
Well, they always tell you when you're playing against a right-handed quarterback, come to his open side. The defense is left, the offense is right. and try to push him to the left. But the thing that Ben does is he can throw the ball going to the left as well. It's, when the Ravens played the Dolphins this year in the playoffs, you saw where Chad Pennington kept getting off his mark to the left side. He threw 2 interceptions because he was a little bit inaccurate. Just a little bit. That's all you need to have plays be made against you. I would think the Cardinals are always going to try to push that right-handed quarterback to the left, and the same thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because you know where Kurt Warner's going to be. He's going to be like in a little 3-foot square. He's always going to be there.
On the X.
He'll be on the X, and he'll be sliding up because he's not going to run around like Ben does. Right. So it's always about getting that quarterback out of his comfort zone. But maybe for Ben Roethlisberger, his comfort zone is to be uncomfortable. How about that? You're never going to hear that analysis anywhere else.
Controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos.
Which is a wonderful thing to get here on CBSSports.com. There's plenty more here on CBSSports.com. The ring. Every segment you see here with these two gentlemen involves that Super Bowl ring from Super Bowl XXIII. Check out the other segments here. Boomer's going to stay with us for a little bit longer. See you soon on Countdown to Kickoff here. Take care, folks.